Good afternoon, Nevis. Good afternoon, St. Kitts. Good afternoon to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And welcome to another edition of On Point for today, December the 22nd, 2023. And of course, when you hear that music on a Friday, it is the introduction to this program. My name is Alexis Jeffers. And of course, it is indeed a pleasure for me to come here every Friday. And when I say every Friday, I really mean every Friday, but obviously circumstances generally prevent me from coming here sometime. I was not here last Friday, and I believe I would have missed a couple of Fridays between November and December, and I do humbly apologize. But of course, this is a program that I've been hosting for the last 6 to 7 months, and I'm still searching for a sidekick, so to speak, to take over when I'm not here. But indeed, once I am around and I can come, I do come during my lunch break on a Friday. So it is good to be here. And let me start off by shouting up all of our listeners, because more and more I get the feeling that we're getting more and more listeners and viewers, of course, because when I'm not here, I do get some texts and some call to find out what is happening with me. And of course, most times, it's not illness, but most times there are other things that has to be done. And so I find myself here, there, and everywhere. So those of you who continue to listen to this program, right here on the island of Nevis, up there in St. James, where I'm from, and that is, well, my favorite place here on the island of Nevis, of course. I've lived in St. James all my life, except a few years when I lived in the United States, of course. And indeed, the other parishes here on the island of Nevis that are listening, I say welcome and greetings. I also want to say welcome to all of our listeners down there in St. Kitts, and indeed we do have quite a number of persons who follow us in Statia or Center Stations, Saba, the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and of course the United States, the entire United States. We have persons living all the way up in the northeast of Vermont, New Hampshire, and those states right up in the northeast, come down to the south in South Florida and Central Florida and the likes, and of course in the Midwest, whether it's New Mexico, Texas. We have students over there in Texas and citizens as well who live there, and going over into the West, California, Oregon, Washington states, all of those 50 United States, even in Hawaii. We have persons from right up here in Stony Grove area who live in Hawaii as well. And Alaska, I'm sure if you were to search Alaska, you'll find some Nevisians, Kittitians living there. So we're scattered all over the globe, up in Europe and in Asia. Of course, we're there, whether studying, getting an education, or working in some regards, or we're stationed there for some particular reason. I say welcome to you, and thanks for tuning in. And I know persons are listening, because of course Von Radio is the premier radio station here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and this station go far and wide, because over 30 years people have learned to take the words and the programming emanating from this station as the premier information and the information that they can trust and rely on. And that is a plug for Von Radio. I don't think I have to do it, but I know it is something that is in all of us who come here to do, because we understand the standards and the quality of programming that emanate from this station. So those of you who are tuned in, thank you and welcome. Well, this afternoon is our last program for 2023. I almost feel like coming next week, Well, it's going to be the last, but if I feel like coming next week, I probably will come. But let me just say, the way I have scheduled things to go for the rest of this year, this would be my last for this year. And the first Friday next year, God's willing, we will be back, and we'll continue to bring the information to you as we have done over the past couple of months. But while we're here this afternoon, there are a few things, of course, we need to touch on. Yes, we're in the festive season of Christmas and heading into the new year. But indeed, the island of Nevis continue to roll along, trundle along, and people continue to go about their business. People continue to do the work that they're being paid to do. And of course, there are those who would have already gone on their vacation and have decided to stay home stay home in Nevis, that is, and enjoy the festive season right here. Some may have gone abroad, of course, but those who have chosen to stay here are going to be living the quintessential Nevisian Christmas. That is lights and music, and of course those who are here would get on the boat and go across to St. Kitts for the carnival activities. So there are things to do and things to enjoy. And as I touch on the Christmas season, of course, some may have some difference in opinion as to what is happening with Christmas these days. Well, I will say from a personal standpoint, as I get older, Christmas holds some value still. But it's not the same as when you were a 12-year-old or 15-year-old or 20-year-old, you know. As you get older, you tend to thank the good Lord for seeing another Christmas and to enjoy what Christmas has to offer in terms of at your particular age. So there are different persons out there, different circumstances for different persons. And so it is a time of year where all will find something to do, something to enjoy, and just relax and enjoy the festive season. Now, before I go any further, let me at this point in time express some condolences, because before I forget and before I get too deep into the program, usually at the top of the program we will do this. So I want to express my profound sympathies to the family of Miss Josephine Maynard, or Fiend as she's affectionately called. I recall a few weeks ago I was here expressing birthday greetings to Fiend. She turned 89, I believe it was about a month ago. I can't recall the exact date, but just a month ago thereabout, I was here from these very microphones expressing my best wishes on her 89th birthday. Well, we would have gotten the sad news earlier this week. I believe it was, might have been Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, where Fiend would have passed. And some may say 89 years is a long time to live, but of course I spoke to my colleague there on St. Kitts when we were over there for the budget presentation, Honourable Eric Evelyn, and he told me just a few weeks ago he had a dance with Fiend down there at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, and that was for a 70s style event that they had there. So, you know, Fiend was still active at 89, and so that is why it was quite a shock, even though she was 89, when we heard that she would have passed, and she would have passed on. And indeed, she is someone who would have entered into this seniors pageant some years ago that was put on by the Social Services Department right up at the cultural complex. So, you know, she was someone who definitely got involved. And you see, that seniors program that is ongoing through the Ministry of Social Development is one that certainly keep our older men and women active, keep them involved, keep their mind ticking, and keep them engaged to the point where some of them are looking even younger than they probably would have looked if they were just sitting down at home on the porch and just watching the days go by. So they are putting more life into their years as they get older. And so those programs, or that program for sure, is one that is certainly one that we can commend all who are involved in that program. Commend them for what they do for our elderly or elder folks here on the island of Nevis. And it is a program that is being copied or being duplicated throughout the region, because people look at what we are doing, and if they see some value in it, they certainly would take it and perhaps modify it to some extent and get that program into their own system regionally. But Fiend was one who was a part of everything that the seniors would have done, and indeed everyone a part of that program would certainly miss her. The community of Butlers will certainly miss her. I will certainly miss her, because of course she's someone who I interacted with from time to time. She spent a lot of years in England, yes, but once she would have returned to Nevis, she stayed busy, stayed active, and stayed involved. And so we want to express once again our profound sympathies to the family over there in Butlers, the entire Butlers community, the entire St. James community. And of course, she was one who used to come to all of those meetings that CCM had in those days of 2012 up 2011, way back then when we had all those issues and difficulties with the voting here, or the electoral process here on the island of Nevis. She was in all those rallies. She was always involved, and so we'll certainly miss her, and may her soul rest in peace. Of course, I want to express sympathies as well to Miss Veronica Brandy, who is dealing with some difficult situations at this point in time. She has lost 2 sons in short order, and indeed it is something that certainly bothers us in terms of how that situation arose yesterday. Is one that I would not go into in any depth at this point in time, but of course she's dealing with some difficult times at this present moment, and so I want all of us to remember Veronica and her family. Veronica, that is up there at Pond Hill. Most of you would definitely know her. Keep her in your prayers, and certainly when you see her, offer her some word of comfort, and I want to do likewise here on this program today. And these situations that we deal with from time to time in terms of criminal activities and so forth, it is something that from time to time creep up here on the island of Nevis, and I want us all to remember that irrespective of what, we know all of, we know our neighbors, we know each other, we know pretty much everyone know someone, even if not by their name, by seeing them. So we know each other here on the island of Nevis, very small community. And so when we go after each other, we're actually going after our, not our blood brother or blood sister, but someone who we can certainly call our brother or neighbor or friend or colleague or something of that sort. And it is really a terrible situation when these things arise. It sends the entire community into shock, and indeed it leaves a scar, because you don't want Nevis to be remembered for anything that is not the best of value or the best thing. So these are things that are not any value whatsoever to the island of Nevis and the people of Nevis, and the advancements of Nevis as well. Doesn't do us any good whatsoever. So I want us all to continue to look out for our neighbor, look out for our brother, look out for our sister, look out for each other, and ensure that we're doing the right thing, because it's the only thing to do if we're to build a strong, resilient, and sustainable island. We have to be able to get along with each other and keep each other, lift each other up and the likes. So those 2 families, of course, are grieving at this time, and indeed we want to continue to extend our prayers. So in the midst of death, there's also life. Persons are born, persons will live their life, and persons will die. And of course, at this point in time, I want to look at the brighter side, for example, and say those of you who are celebrating today, I don't have any names for today, but I want to just express belated birthday greetings to one of my favorite cousins over there in Newcastle, Leonie Skeet. She celebrated her birthday on Tuesday, the 19th of December, and as families would do, we went out and had a good time together. And I want to say, Leonie, may God bless you, may God continue to provide you with the strength and the resilience, and I know you're a praying lady, so you'll continue to pray for the entire family and pray for yourself, so that we can all be around for many more years to come, or whatever the Lord grants us. Yeah. So I want to say to you, best wishes, and hopefully you'll live to see many, many more. Another cousin of mine is going to be celebrating her birthday on Monday, the 25th of December. I always have a problem with persons celebrating on the 25th of December, because their birthday tend to get lost in the celebration of Christmas. But hey, who can determine when you're born? You're born, and that's your day. And of course, if you're born on the 25th of December, there is no less value to that as against being born on the 1st of December. But just that, on the 25th of December, we're all out there going to the various homes and parties and having lunch here or lunch there, and sometimes you tend to forget these birthdays of persons who were born on 25th. But I want to say to you, Christine, enjoy your day on Monday, and anyone else who will be celebrating for the rest of this month, have a wonderful time. And as I've said before, and I'll say again, when you're celebrating a birthday these days, celebrate as if it is the last birthday you'll be celebrating, because life is so fleeting. You wake up this morning and you're gone before the day is done. And like they're saying these days, this minute you're here, this minute you're gone. Or the second you're here, the second you're gone. So every time a birthday comes and you're working, if you're still working, that is, take the day off and go and spend it with yourself. And if you have some money in the bank, take it up and spend as much as you can on yourself. But it still won't be enough to spend on yourself. But whatever it is, spend some on yourself and enjoy your birthday, huh? And that is just my admonition to you today, because that is how life is these days. People are developing all kinds of different challenges, and then before you know it, they're gone. So I'm sorry to go down that road, but I just like to be real. And the reality is that we are losing people every day. And the reality is we will exit this world at some point. When it would be, neither you or I know, but the Lord has a date in mind for all of us. So enjoy. Okay, so let's leave that and move on. So as I said, we are coming to the close of the year, and indeed this will be my last program, as I said before. And sometimes it's good to reflect on upon the good and the bad things that may have happened throughout the past year. Many of you would have had good experiences, many have had bad experiences, and many would have had indifferent experiences. But of course, we can always look at these experiences and see what may have helped to shape our lives over the last year. And indeed, if you're here to look back on the year past, it's not past in its entirety as yet, but to reflect on the months that have passed and even the days that have gone in December, then you certainly can say, well, let me look and see what would have shaped my life for 2023, and what can I do moving forward in 2024 to make life even better. Because if you had any good circumstances, the whole idea is to build on those. If you had bad experiences, then of course you'd want to change those circumstances around, if you certainly can, to make 2024 even better. But you must take some time and just, absorb those opportunities and lessons that you would have had to learn from over the last 12 months, and see what you can do to make sure that 2024 is a successful year for you. That being said, Nevis would have seen a lot of good things happen over the last 12 months. Of course, when you listen to some may give you a different opinion. And of course, that is the whole beauty about life. People have different shades of opinions, and of course, one has to respect the opinions that are out there. But also in those opinions, it is what it is, opinion. It is not fact, or they're not fact. And so when someone tells you, oh, nothing is happening in Nevis, you ask yourself, is that a fact or that is someone's opinion? And you have to say, it is someone's opinion. Because the fact is, good things have happened in Nevis over the last 12 months. And indeed, we can always reflect on some of those things. From what I want to say to you is that if you are alive and well at the end of this year, and you would have paid your bills, you'd have saved a little, you'd have sent your children to school, you would have been able to make a difference in your lives by going out on a daily basis and working for your paycheck, putting out an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. You must say that this year was not a bad year at all. There are some who were perhaps unemployed, perhaps because of an illness, or perhaps because it was their choice to stay unemployed. Because I would say to you, there is employment available on the island of Nevis. I will also go further and say to you, I would even go further and say to you that I have seen persons who are working 2 and 3 jobs. There are persons out there who would tell you something is wrong with that. It therefore means that life is hard for some people and they have to work 2 and 3 jobs. And I will say to you that is utter rubbish. And I'll tell you the reason why I say that. If someone is working 3 jobs, it therefore means that work is available on the island. If they're working 3 jobs, it therefore means that they have a personal commitment or personal matter that they'll want to take care of in terms of purchasing something, in terms of saving towards something. They are the ones who know what their circumstances are. So you nor anyone else can tell them that life is hard with them, because of course they have been able to get themselves a 2nd or 3rd job, and therefore their spending power will be expanded. Their spending power would be within the grasp of their hands. They can now go to the bank and take up what they want, what they've put in as savings, and spend it on what they want to get. So we look at the negative behind everything. And if a single parent out there is working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, it therefore means that single parent is doing what they are capable of doing or what they want to do at this point in time, and that is to make extra revenue to support their children. I don't know what their circumstances are. Neither you nor I know. They know best. And if they can go and get that done and they're doing it with no difficulties, I would say more power to them. And so we don't have to always look at the negatives, but I've gone to some of these restaurants and bars and eateries here on the island of Nevis, and I am proud to see our people going out when the offer is made for a opening to be filled. I am happy when our people go to fill these positions and to ensure that the services that are required and the persons who are needed to offer these services at these establishments are available and are performing their duties, because there's money to be made. And some may say money is not all, but money is the start of it, because without money, what are you going to purchase anything with? You need to have that spending power. And so from the employment or job front, I can say that there's work on the island of Nevis, and there will be more work available in going into the new year. But in the meantime, when a position becomes available, I say to our people, if you can make the sacrifice, make that commitment and go and get to work, because work is there. Now, in terms of what has been done, the CCM in government has continued to fulfill its mandate to the people, of course, in all of the areas such as road, water, electricity, and so on. There have been tremendous improvements here on the island of Nevis. Infrastructure-wise, I have said from time to time that anyone who comes to the island of Nevis to visit, the first thing that they would want to check out when they land at Van Sammer International or disembark in Charlestown or at the Wally Water Taxi Facility, they would first start to look at your road network. That infrastructure is what hit the eyes first and foremost. And if they get off the water taxi or they get off the pier in Charlestown or they leave Van Sammer and they start falling into potholes all the way to Charlestown, they will pick up the phone when they get to the place where they intend to stay, and the first thing they say, boy, Nevis is full of bad roads. That is not what you'd want our visitors to start with. I would want to start with our local residents, citizens and residents, of course. But let me just stick with the visitors for now, because most times they're the ones who would, we're trying to make sure we create that first impression, because once you create that first impression, that is the impression that lasts, because the saying is like this: you never get a second chance to create a first impression. And so when they come and they meet good roads, they meet water, they meet reliable electricity, then of course those are the infrastructure that they certainly would want to meet, so that they can judge our little island by that and say that Nevis is a progressive island. But coming back to our citizens need all of these things as well too. And so there was a point in time there, certain gentlemen would have said that Nevis have gotten so much money and Premier Brantley is a bad spender. We had a conversation about that. That's Premier Brantley and I and all of our colleagues. And and so when we listen to what is happening to our neighboring island, I'm not pitting St. Kitts against Nevis, but what I'm talking about is the reality. I'm not the one who is saying it. It is being said from the other side of the Narrows, that there are bad roads up in St. Peter's. There are bad roads here. There are no roads going to my farm. There's no road going here. Water, there's no water for days. Electricity was out last night on the neighboring island of St. Kitts. These are real. That is not Alexis Jeffers making up anything. So the investments that we have made in water in Nevis, the investment that we have made in road, the investment that we have made in electricity, that is where the money would have gone to ensure that our people can live comfortably. And our standard of living here on the island of Nevis remains, as they say in local parlance, remains top a top, remains the best. So when people look at Nevis, they see the lights are on. When they come to Nevis and stay in any of these villas or hotels or at home where we are, we can turn on our tap when we go home this afternoon and water is there. You flick your switch and electricity is there. These are the infrastructural development that speaks well about the management of the resources and the management of an island. And that is why I'm proud of the investments that have been made in these infrastructures over the years, because we are now seeing the fruits of our labor and our investments. And so when you hear them talk about Nevis in a negative way, Nevis have more than what many other neighboring islands have in terms of electricity. I want to touch electricity because, I listen to the talk shows and everything coming from other islands and talk about water. I listen to other radio stations as well. And when you hear an island will say, or someone in a particular community in a certain island will say, it has been 4 days now I haven't seen any water, or haven't had any use of water from the local or the government distribution network. It tells you a story. There is never a time on the island of Nevis since I've known myself looking at what is going on. There was never a time where I've heard anyone say for 4 days I haven't seen any water. Maybe there was, but I am saying to you, there was never a time. Of course, a few hours and water is gone. A few days, never. But a few hours, I can say that. You have rupture in lines all around Nevis. You have sometimes load shedding or selected distribution around the island of Nevis. But those days are very few. And that is why I say when you hear all of this noise being made about Nevis and what money has come, where the money gone, the money have gone into water, the money have gone into electricity, the money have gone into roads, the money have gone into civil servants who would have worked throughout the pandemic period and they never lost the salary. And so there were other things in terms of paying debt. The debt that NRP refused to pay when they were there, we continue to pay those debts. So when you hear them talk about where money gone the right places, doing the right things to make sure that the island of Nevis does not suffer some of the fate that you see going on around us. Those with more money than us suffering the type of fate that they suffer, whereby electricity is unreliable and water is unreliable and the road network is in a state of disrepair. And those of you who come from, I don't even want to start talking about other islands because that is not my intent. But those of you who come from other islands, you make the comparison and I hear you every day talk about what you have here in Nevis. And when you hear the other side talk, you wonder where those people are living. They're living right here in Nevis. Same people on the other side. But something about them, Something about them. That is their MO. They can never appreciate good things. Why? Because of, one, politics, and they are the ones who seem to put those negatives out there so as to persuade whoever they can persuade, because their intention is to jump into government someday. But I say to them, people of Nevis are watching and they understand who has the best interests of the people at heart and who is only there just to say get into government to get a paycheck. But that won't happen once the people of Nevis continue to have confidence in the Concerned Citizens Movement, because it is the best party on the island of Nevis and the only party right now that has the requisite confidence and the requisite skills and the requisite capability to manage the affairs of the island of Nevis under the Premier, Honourable Mark Brantley. But what has happened thus far for the year? In roads, of course, I touch roads. Well, we have seen the completion of the bypass road, that network that take you from over here at the roundabout all the way down to Pennies, next to the artisan village, that is, those little buildings down there, that is managed by the tourism, Ministry of Tourism. And indeed, I believe over the next, maybe early in the new year, that road will be marked accordingly. But I ask persons to be careful. Take your time when you travel on that road. It is very smooth and it can be tempting, and you can push your foot down heavy on the accelerator, and you're speeding away and create difficulties for yourself. So I'm saying to the people of Nevis, take your time on that road, but it's a beautiful surface. And we all remember all that was being said prior to the repairs that were done, They call it bypass road and all kind of nonsense I was hearing. But nothing happens before its time, and the time came, and that is done. We have also seen the completion of the road up there that they call Banjo Road. I don't want to call it Banjo Road. There's a piece of road over there that Banjo live on that road. So I suppose they want to be specific and let people know exactly where it is. But that road over there in Cotton Ground was completed. Very nice road. And then, of course, over here in Bath Village, that road is completed as well. Transformation of Bath. Bath looked like nothing that it has looked like before in terms of the transformation that has brought. Persons got their walls, persons got their driveway, persons got whatever to make that that Bath Village look, like a modern day community. And we're happy for the people of Bath. So smooth roads are over there. And indeed, the road down there by the Medical University, that's next to the St. James Anglican Church cemetery that goes all the way down to the beach. That road, people started talking about, oh, they spend money over there. Listen, from what I know, the milled material that came from areas like up there in Bypass Road and other roads that were milled here on the island of Nevis, that was taken back to the to the asphalt plant, and it was processed again and taken over there and laid all the way down to the beach. So in terms of expense, I would say that whatever the original cost could have been, it was reduced in half, thereabout, or even less, because it was material that was milled and reprocessed and taken down there. In terms of construction, we know construction continued to boom here on the island of Nevis, and the numbers will say that as well, because I don't want to stick my neck too far out, but I saw the activities down there at TDC, I saw the activities up there at Horsford, I saw the activities over there at Island Tires and more, the hardware place that is owned by the Shivertons over there, and all of those areas that were participating in the VAT Day last Friday. I understand millions of dollars were spent to purchase hardware, construction material, and of course the numbers can be and will be produced. I don't have the numbers, and I don't want to preempt and say, well, this is what I believe they made, but I know for sure millions of dollars would have been collected or made or generated by those hardware companies. And indeed, in terms of car sales as well, you saw some robust activity as well, and all around Charlestown people would have spent money. So I know there is money circulated in Nevis. As bad as they say Nevis is, and as bad as they say things are, money was circulating last weekend, and money continued to circulate. Mind you, don't have to go down on Charlestown, the streets of Charlestown, and throw money on the street as they see money there. Money goes into those coffers of those institutions, and their numbers will be produced. Their shareholders will be the beneficiary of some of these increased activities, and of course the government will be the recipient of some of the revenue that was collected by way of taxes, that is. So we know activity was there, because there are a number of construction sites that are open here on the island of Nevis. As a matter of fact, based on the numbers that I got, I understand from the Minister and Ministry of Communication and Works that there were 293 development applications that were submitted to the planning department. So 293, and of course 227 approvals were given, meaning that these approvals were for construction, clearing of site, and everything that you have to apply for at the planning department. Those numbers are in, and those are the numbers. But what is most important, there are 139 active construction sites here on the island of Nevis. Whether it's for dwelling houses or commercial construction, there are activities taking place here on the island of Nevis, and those are significant numbers. And I would just want to go back to roads for a little bit. I didn't touch on Butler's Road, but Butler's Road, I would say, is about 75 to 80% complete. There is one layer of asphalt that is left to be laid on the current stretch of road over there. And I will say to the people of Butlers, yes, you would say that it's taking some time, but there are factors that would have, contributed to some of the delays, notwithstanding the fact that people can drive the entire road anyway. What would have been done initially was to pave the entire road to ensure, because Butlers have this slope, or the topography is like a slope up and down the village. The whole idea was to pave the entire road to ensure that you don't have any washout when you have rain. And if you have a washout, every time you lose some base material, it has to be replaced. And of course, it costs to truck it there, to lay it, and to compact it and everything. It costs. There's a cost to it. So the wisdom behind what was done over there in terms of laying that asphalt throughout the village so as to ensure that you maintain the road network and not have those washout was a wise thing to do. And so now the next approach now would be to go and have the additional, I believe, about 2 inches laid on that road, and that will be done in short order. Public Works, I believe, is done for the year. So even so, early next year, when Public Works restart, re-engage their work program, we'll see that work being done. And, it'll be beautiful when it's all said and done. That being said, if you were to go to the upper section of Butlers, that is an indication as to what the final layer throughout the village will be like, because up there is complete, nice and smooth and beautiful work done by our Public Works Department, and we want to thank them. So Butlers, early next year you'll get the remaining percentage of your road done and marked, and everyone will be happy as a result. Let's move on though, but I was talking about some of the things that would have been accomplished this year. Of course, in water, we continue to see upgrades being done throughout the island of Nevis. Everywhere road is done, new piece of road is being constructed. Of course, new pipes are being laid so as to upgrade the distribution network. Where there were smaller lines, larger lines are being placed. And indeed, we have a reliability in the distribution system. I believe, as I said before, and I use the word believe, but I want to say that the only place in Nevis that doesn't have, that is not a part of the complete distribution network, I believe is somewhere between the racetrack over there, the car track, and heading towards the river. That area, I believe, at some point will have to be tied into the system so you can move water from Maddens all the way over to Fottergills and beyond. But that will be taken care of. Housing, of course, there's continued construction of houses here on the island of Nevis through the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation in Maddens, Cedar View, over there in Craddock Road, Mountain View Crescent, up there in Cherry Garden, above Cherry Garden, which is Chimney View, and indeed down there in Rice's Bayview. There are other construction taking place, but housing continue to be a priority of this government, and it will continue into 2024, because during the budget presentation, I believe it was said that 50 houses will be constructed next year. So houses are continues to be a priority, as I said, and those who want to own a home, of course, I forgot up there at University Heights as well, construction continues up there. Those who want to own a home, just go and engage the folks there at the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, and they will sit with you and make sure that you get what your heart desires. And of course, the water taxi, I mentioned that before, but you see an increase in the number of persons and using that particular facility. As I said, at the end of November 2023, we would have seen over 218,000 persons using that facility, and we are pushing hard for, let's say, 250,000 people by the end of December. We'll see how that goes. The numbers will come in accordingly. Electricity, I mentioned before, I had these things written down, but as I go around the island and I see these things, I always try to make a note and see that, yes, things are happening in this regard. Tourism, of course, I was told that there will be an increase in the influx of persons after the Christmas period. And that's typically what happens after each season, whereby you have a surge, say around Thanksgiving, around Thanksgiving, and then there's a fall off, and then after Christmas, then things ramp up to the point where you have an influx between January and February and going down towards April, and sometimes beyond April, because we're seeing these days that the tourist season have a long, period where you'll have people still coming even up to July and August and those months. So indeed, of course, agriculture. Yes, agriculture, we have seen some improved numbers in agriculture. As a matter of fact, I believe, based on what the minister would have mentioned or noted to me, is that they've seen an increase in sales at the agro-processing unit, whereby over same period, month over month, year over year, they have seen an increase of 135% increase in sales of agro-processed items over there at the agro-processing unit. Well, I'm a part of those numbers because I go there to buy my mango pulp. As a matter of fact, let's back up and get it right. The 135% increase, from what I recall, was the increase in the sale of mango pulp. And I am a part of that number because I go there from time to time to buy my mango pulp to make my drink and smoothie. And I want to encourage the people of Nevis to go and patronize the agro-processing unit, because we are selling locally produced items there, whether you want a drink, whether you want sorrel concentrate, mango concentrate, golden apple concentrate, passion fruit concentrate, whatever it is, just go there and they'll have it. Indeed, they have flour, cassava flour, cassava meal, those type of things. So the agro-processing unit should be your next stop if you want to consume things that are local, things that are wholesome. Same thing with down there at the abattoir, where they've seen an increase in the sale of meat and meat products. Right now they're selling a large volume of ham. This is Christmas, so ham is available, locally produced ham, and I want us to go down and patronize the folks down there at the abattoir as well, because whatever is produced there are locally produced items, and indeed they have almost 30 different items that they produce there at the abattoir. And of course, local chicken as well. If you want smoked chicken, or you want this rotisserie chicken, they have it down there. And they, as they say sometimes, the proof is in the eating. And it certainly tastes different, and it eats different as well too. As a matter of fact, while I'm on poultry, next year I should say the start of the construction of the processing unit. I believe what has happened over the last couple of months is that there have been some changes being made to the actual building or the drawings, and that would have delayed the start of the construction. So next year, early next year, should see the start of that construction. So sometime during the course of next year, we will be seeing the slaughtering, processing, packaging and sale of locally produced chicken. Of course, I am a big proponent of this particular investment, because I do believe that we can certainly make a huge industry out of this particular poultry business, in that there are a number of persons that have shown interest thus far, and a number of persons can certainly use that as a second means of generating an income. And indeed, there are some who can certainly tell themselves that they can make it a business, that they can get it into 100%. But those who can certainly do that as an addition or supplement to your income, you can certainly do it as well. The government have certainly put some policies in place to guide and direct this particular industry, whereby our people can be the beneficiaries of things like a duty-free concession on all building and construction material for 5 years. You also do have concession on a vehicle, the appropriate vehicle that will be used to transport your feed and your products. You'll get duty free, at least one per over a 5-year period. You'll also pay no corporate taxes over that period of time. You'll also get concession on water, concession on electricity, and of course concession on the importation of feed and any other materials that are needed to supplement or sustain your business. So those policies have been approved by the Cabinet of the Nevis Island Administration. So it is a matter of inquiring at the Ministry or Department of Agriculture for those who want to get into the poultry business. Now, these are things that we need all local people to gravitate to and to grab a hold of, because of course persons from the outside might be looking on and would want to get in. But if we are to empower our people, we want our people to be involved. And someone out there, persons out there might want to start thinking about even a hatchery, because when it's all said and done, keep in mind, each farmer, if they were to purchase 1,000 birds today, within 6 to 8 weeks those birds will be slaughtered. So they need to have that continuity. So if they purchase 1,000 birds today, in another few weeks they'll need another 1,000, and then that's how it will be throughout the year. Because if there's a small mortality rate, of course, you know, that would mean that if they start with 1,000, they lose about 100 for argument's sake. Then they have another 900 to bring to the slaughter, and then they'll need another 1,000 in a few weeks and another 1,000 after that. I'm just giving by way of example and illustration. So it's a matter for us to understand and look at the opportunities that are being presented, and then of course you know, you can certainly maximize your return in that regard. But it is an area that certainly can be one that can provide that additional income for you. Work is involved, eh? Just keep that in mind. Everything that you do requires some work, some dedication, and some seriousness for it to succeed. So if you were to do that, then of course there will be some success for you. Indeed, the government is also working on some lands down there at Webb's Estate, whereby those lands will be made available to potential farmers. And when I say potential farmers, I believe it will be for poultry and for livestock as well. It's about 60 plus acres of land. So those information, you can certainly go to the Ministry or Department of Agriculture to get some directions on those. But I want all people to become involved, because it's for us. Yeah, this industry is being built first, and then it's also a part of the CARICOM mandate of reducing the import of certain agricultural products into the CARICOM region by 25% over the next by 25% by the year 2025. Reduction of import by 25% by the year 2025. It is a huge task, but it is possible if, as they say, we put our hands to the plow and we bend our backs and we go and we concentrate on the things that would certainly transform our lives over that period of time and beyond. If you were to reduce imports by 25%, that translates into money into our pockets. In that, people will be buying these things locally that you're producing, whether they're root crops, whether they're tomatoes, whether they're lettuce, broccoli, whatever the case might be. I for sure love the whole idea of this poultry industry, because it certainly will work, and it can pay dividends in the end. I also do believe in planting more root crops as well. I've said that to all who I have had any interaction with, because root crops will complement the poultry industry, in that, of course, when you sit down or you decide to cook something, you have root crops, you have protein in the form of poultry, and you have your starch and what's not in the form of your root crops, such as sweet potatoes, carrots, and what do you call it now, cassava and the like. So root crops complement your chicken. Imagine cooking local chicken with your locally produced yam and tanya, sweet potato. That would be the best pot to cook and the most wholesome pot to cook. That's just me talking. Okay. Anyway, oh, I'll touch on the quarry. If you see some trucks moving back and forth in the Gingerland area. There is a boat over here at Long Point. They're loading up, I believe, almost 4,000 tons of gravel, crushed stone that is, to send off to Guyana. So that is continuing something that we started years ago, somewhere around 2016 or 2017, thereabout, where we would have shipped our first load of stone down to Guyana. That has continued. There was a drop off in that we had an increase in construction here on the island of Nevis, and we were just ramping up to meet that demand. But now we can balance the demand for local aggregates, locally crushed stones, and also can get a shipment out every couple of months thereabout, or whatever the case might be. But what that says to me is that we are doing something that I have always talked about, and that is these boats that come to our shores, they bring products to our shores, we must be able to put something on that boat to send back out of here. It means then you're fulfilling that rotation, and not them leaving here and going to St. Lucia or going down to Dominica or some other country to load up and move down further south. We should be dispatching them from Nevis, loaded with stone, all the way to Guyana. It is a win-win for everybody. A win-win for the boat operators and a win-win for the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation. And here's how. One, they come here and they bring sand. Then they leave with stones. And once they leave here, it is a direct trek to Guyana, just about 4 days. If they leave here empty and go up to Montserrat, or they go down, go down to St. Lucia or one of those places, then they take a few days to get down there. Then they have to sit in the harbor for another couple of days. Then they have to load, and then a few more days to get down to Guyana. So you're thinking about a week or more, if they were to use that example that I just gave you. But if they leave Nevis and go straight to Guyana, then that's about a 4-day span. And it is, they say time is money and money is time. You save a lot of money that way because you're not sitting around wasting time and wasting fuel. You're going straight and coming straight. So we have to continue to look for things that we can put on these boats to get it out of here so that they can pay their expenses in terms of covering their fuel costs, covering their workers' costs, covering whatever costs for the journey. And we make some money as a result as well. We need to get more business oriented around here and start thinking about how can we make money. Money's out there to be made. It's not sitting on a tree. It's not sitting on the ground, but you have to work for it. But you have to apply your skills and your mental capacity to figure out what can you do to make some money. Money can be made, and we just have to apply all the necessary things and ingredients to make sure it works. Now, in terms of what else we would have accomplished this year, at the federal level, at the federal parliament, I must say that we had a huge accomplishment, or a couple of huge accomplishments over the past year. And one that I can speak of, at least two, but I'll start with this one. It is the Nevis Island Administration Crown Proceeding Act 2023. Remember coming out of a case that was adjudicated on by the Court of Appeals, which was the Ocean Reef versus the Nevis Island Administration, had to do with the acquisition of those lands over there at Herbert Beach. The court would have ruled accordingly, and it created some conversations and some difficulties. And to eliminate that and to ensure that there are no difficulties moving forward, because out of that particular judgment, the judges would have indicated that the Nevis Island Administration lacks the capacity to sue or be sued. So the Nevis Island Administration Crown Proceeding Act 2023 was passed in the federal parliament. I believe it might have been July, August. I can't recall the exact date, but it was during the course of this year. And by the new act, the Nevis Island Administration, of course, which is a legal body established by the Constitution, now has the explicit legislative power to sue and be sued in its own name. That wasn't the case before. And indeed, the NIA has sued in the past. Since 1983, when we gained our independence, the Nevis Island Administration has sued and has been sued as well. But the recent ruling, of course, was as a result of the fact that the judges felt that the NIA did not have the legislative powers to support this long-standing practice of suing or be sued. So that was addressed, and all documents required to be served on the NIA now would have to come to the legal department, the Nevis legal department, or the NIA's legal department. So that was a step in the right direction, and that gives us the necessary legislative powers. And indeed, that is when you're running an island or you're managing an island, you want to be in control of all of the necessary things, whether it's all the things that I've talked about, whether infrastructure, water, and the likes. You also want to be in charge of your legislative authority as well, too. So the Crown Proceeding Act was passed, and that was a plus for the Nevis Island administration. And of course, we have to commend the federal government and the leadership that has been displayed over there by the current Prime Minister, Dr. Drew, and his team for agreeing. And also the resolution, I'm running out of time quickly here, but the resolution that was passed, I believe, on the 20th of November, that resolution that gave the green lights to the Caribbean Development Bank to support the geothermal project here on the island of Nevis. There's a lot of talk about what has gone on before. My simple input on that is this, that every single government and every single leader since 2006 would have had some exposure to the geothermal issue. Some would have supported it, some did not. Some would have sought, would have sought a, oh man, the word is guarantee. Some would have sought a guarantee, and it was not given. Some would have done all kind of things, prematurely pronounce the arrival of geothermal. I don't want to go back down that road. There's no time for that. What is most important is what is before us, and that is that resolution that gave the that opened the door for the Nevis Island administration to proceed and for the Caribbean Development Bank to make whatever funding available, $17 million available for the drilling of production wells and the like, and to ensure that we can move the project even further ahead so that it can be there for the benefit of the people of Nevis, the people of St. Kitts, the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and if possible beyond the shores of St. Kitts and Nevis. It has tremendous potential to transform the lives and the livelihood of the people of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and whoever do not agree with this, I say, you're not truly a division, you're not truly a Kittitian, you're not truly a citizen of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Because if this is to work, it therefore means it will be to the benefit of every single one of us. Not for now, not for tomorrow, but moving into the future as well. So this can be transformative in many ways. That being said, we're running out of time, and I really want to wrap up by thanking all of you for listening to this program throughout the year. And you know, there's a song, "Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me." Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. Let us keep peace as our main focus for this season and beyond. Let us look out for our brother, look out for our sister, look out for our neighbor. Spend time with the less fortunate among us. And also, this has been a challenging year for many of us, or many of you. And of course, some may have had to deal with issues to do with crime. Some may have had a difficult financial year. Some may have had some successes this year. Whatever the circumstances have been, I am asking for the Lord to provide you with better circumstances next year. Better if it was bad, and even better if it was good, make it better. And through the Lord's grace and protection, we shall all make it through 2024. We are a resilient people. This is a resilient island, and we are building a resilient future by the investments that are being made in this island. So let us all take advantage of these investments. Let us all take advantage of what this island has to offer, and of course, build something that is sound and strong for the future generations to come. The legacy that we leave behind will certainly define us as a people who are managing the affairs of the island of Nevis, and managing the affairs that is to ensure the transformation comes to those who will come in the future. So once again, thank you very much for listening. May God continue to bless this island. I want to say to my constituents up there in St. James and St. Thomas Parish, Nevis 11, may God bless you throughout this season. May you have a wonderful and peaceful season. May you continue to prosper in the new year, because that's what we look for in 2024, sorry, is prosperity. And that is all that I wish for you in terms of your best, all of the best that there is to offer to you and the Lord have in store for you. So, thank you once again. May God bless all of us, bless this entire federation, and indeed, let us continue to be who we are, and that is a good people, a peaceful people, a loving people, and a people who will continue to build an island and a nation that we can all be proud of in the end. Thank you very much for listening, and have a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.
You're listening to Vaughn Radio from the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis.